Hi there.
Hello.
How are
Hey, how's it
you?
going? This good. My name is Renee with Middle Man Out. Who am I talking with today? Just make sure I get this incorrect.
This is Dave.
All right, awesome. You play drums and Psycroptic, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Fantastic. I was listening to the promo, and I mean that drum work is of course amazing, just like all the other previous albums. Thank you for joining me today, just to talk about the new album that you got coming out in just a few weeks.
Yeah, couple
Yeah,
of weeks. Yeah, no,
yeah.
thanks for making the time.
Yeah, that's always exciting, especially when you got a new album coming out. It's kind of like a new baby here, presenting it to the world.
Yeah,
Things that
exactly.
you've been working on.
Yeah, it's been kept under wraps for a little while, so it's good to get it finally out there.
Yeah. I mean, luckily for the fans, you did have kind of not so much a sneak peek, but y'all did release a couple songs as singles, like a little mini EP earlier the year, right?
Yeah, that was we put out the two-track single in 2020 with um yeah, like we'd never done that before. Just put out an EP slash single.
Yeah.
That was, I guess, kind of to keep the momentum and keep the positivity up in the band, with all the madness going on in 2020, which kind of it segued into the new album pretty seamlessly, which was cool.
Yeah. And do you see, or do you think that it's kind of necessary, being that normal record lengths will have maybe anywhere from 2 to 3 years, as to where bands are now having forced to put out singles just to kind of stay in the limelight or in people's minds.
I guess that's a factor that it's somewhat in the back of your mind, but when you're writing the songs, it doesn't factor into it at all. I guess it's cool from a an artistic and creative point of view to put stuff out as often as logistically possible,
Yeah.
to keep things fresh for both yourself and the fans. But in terms of the typical album cycle, however long it takes us to write an album is however long it takes, which is usually that 2 to 4 year. It seems to be the sweet spot seems to be around the 3 years for us.
Yeah.
That's how long it takes us to put everything together.
Now, y'all decided to name this one Divine Council. Is there like a secret meaning to it? I mean, it's everything that you see kind of reflective of what you see in the world, or where did that come about?
That's difficult for me to comment on because Jason Pepiot, he writes all of our lyrics. So everything has a particular meaning to him, of course, but uh, in discussing it with him, he does like to keep the lyrics very much open to interpretation. So anyone can kind of put their own sort of spin on it if they like. So
Yeah.
the title, I guess that was something that we just from looking at all the lyrics, looking at all the songs, the track order, the artwork, and everything like that. It, it it kind of became apparent. There was a couple of other working titles, which for whatever reason kind of fell by the wayside. Closer to the completion date, and Divine Council was the one that seemed like it fit the overall concept and feel of the album. So there's no huge, deep, profound meaning.
Yeah.
I guess it's a pretty cool title, as
Yeah.
well as yeah, it's cool to let the fans and the listener and the reader of the lyrics, whatever, to put their own spin on it,
Yeah.
whatever they think it means. In the
Yeah.
past, it's been cool where fans have written to us and then actually outlined what they think things particularly mean, and that's cool. That's 100%. Uh, yeah, like interpreting it and putting their own spin on it, which that's great. That's kind of what we want.
Yeah, for sure. Now, for this album, a lot of times, it'll be either the guitarist, which happens to be your brother, will usually start the album, or at least the riff ideas for yourself. besides playing drums, do you also contribute that way with some of the riffs or the composition and the music creation?
Each album is different. This album in particular, because I live in a different state to the other guys. So I'm in Victoria, which is, so I'm based in Melbourne, the city of Melbourne, and the other guys are still in Tasmania. So we're separated literally by the ocean, because Tasmania is an island. It's a short flight. It's an hour. So I'm down there quite often, but obviously during the main creative sessions for the album, we were all in separate lockdowns, so there was no way to actually be in the same room.
Yeah.
So we did all of the collaboration over just email, sending ideas backwards and forwards. So I would receive the songs pretty much as loose skeletons, but kind of fully written songs, if that made sense. So the structure was there, the riffs were there to some degree, and then I was able to work on my parts and create my patterns and see what kind of floated to the surface. I'd jam through the songs every day, playing them differently every day, and just see what ideas worked and what ideas didn't. And then any structural changes would become apparent. And then I'd go backwards and forwards with Joe and say, well, maybe this section needs to be longer, or we need to shorten this, or whatever. We need to change the tempo. So it was more that sort of collaboration. When the drums are completed, I guess we look at that as the skeleton. So it's like, okay, this is how the structures are, this is how the song goes. And then Joe will actually go back over and maybe rewrite some of the riffs. So everything's kind of changing. Right up until the album completion, everything's in a constant state of flux. So nothing is set in stone until it's done, which is it's a cool way to work, because in the past we'd go into the studio with the songs 100% written. That's how they were. No changes possible, which is fine. But maybe the week after you've tracked something, you come up with a better idea, and it's already done. So both ways of working have their pros and cons, but that the situation dictated how we worked on this album. Creatively, I think it allowed us all to get into our individual headspaces and work on our individual parts. Maybe there wasn't as much collective collaboration, just because of the logistical nature of things.
Right.
But it was a different and unique way to work. I'm not sure whether I'd like to do the same for next album, but it definitely kept things interesting and fresh.
Yeah. So for yourself, when it coming into as you're listening to the riffs and trying to come up with drum parts, you never want to kind of repeat yourself, but you still want to stay with your, the sound that Psycroptic has. For yourself, how do you feel like you try to push yourself in this new album to, again, stay fresh, not try to repeat anything that you've done before?
The way I approach the drums for any of the Psycroptic stuff, or just drums in general, I do like to play with the riffs and really lock into the riffs rather than kind of sitting as the a typical rhythm section. Like, I like to really lock in and just be as tight as possible with whatever ideas there musically. So a lot of the time the music will dictate what say rhythm or pattern that I need to play. So I'll probably hear that from the start, like it needs to be this particular pattern, and then I'll figure out how to orchestrate that on the kit. And in terms of staying fresh, it could be as simple as, I've been working on new ideas or patterns or just practicing new things that I actually want to try in the real world. I
Yeah.
might try to put them in the song. Sometimes they work, sometimes they definitely don't work, and it just sounds like a practice exercise over the top. Um, but I will play the song just as I said, over and over again, and try to do it completely differently every time, and then see which naturally rises to the surface. So whatever parts um, that I seem to come back to, or they kind of dictate, they kind of write themselves. It sounds like a cliche, but it kind of
Right.
does. Yeah, you play the song often enough, and the same parts are coming to the surface. It's like, well, maybe that is the part that like there's no other thing um, that is naturally coming up, and I'm going into the song with the idea of playing it differently every time, as we're writing it. So there's definitely something in the almost the flow state of playing the songs over and over again, differently, and not getting attached to any ideas until actually going into the studio.
Yeah.
So they do kind of write themselves. If it sounds like a bit of a cop out, and I think that's how they remain fresh, because the ideas are quite organic. I'm not trying to force something that doesn't feel like it needs to be there.
Right.
And another idea is, in the back of my mind, I always I want to be having fun with the parts, because I know I'm going to be playing them live over and over again, and I want to enjoy the song. Because if I don't enjoy the song,
Yeah.
how is anyone else going to enjoy it? So
Right.
that's another factor, to a lesser degree, but that does factor into it as well.
Yeah. You're not just gonna come in and just play the basic 4/4 time signature.
I mean, not unless that rises to the surface. Sometimes it does. It's like, oh, that part is like that just needs that AC/DC rock beat or whatever, or that
Right.
that Cannibal Corpse death metal uh, just groove section, whatever part that I keep coming back to.
Right.
That's
You know,
that's be there.
yeah. One thing that I've seen, pretty impressive, and maybe you have yourself, is it seems like the past, I would say maybe 10 to 20 years, drummers in this genre of music have exploded with technicality to where it's not just a simple just smash as fast as you can, but it in a sense does sound like that, but when you watch the playthroughs, you're like, holy cow, how the hell are they doing this?
Mm.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I mean, I think one of the key things, for the advancement, as strange as it might seem, is things like YouTube and playthroughs and stuff like that. So the younger generation of extreme drummers are advancing way quicker than the older generation, and then they're building on the ideas that are already there, and just pushing it further and further. Like, I see some of these younger players, and I'm like, what the? It just blows my mind, and it's inspiring, because it forces you to, okay, I got to work harder. I got to. I'm inspired to work harder, because wow, these players have been playing half as long or a quarter as long as me, and doing some wild stuff that,
Yeah.
I'm scratching my head about. That's that's pretty inspiring.
Yeah.
It's great. I
I
think,
think
yeah, it's that, the widespread access to education has just lifted the bar, exponentially.
yeah, for sure. Now, playing the drums, I mean, is no simple feat, especially when you're playing this fast for yourself. When it comes to playing live, I mean, how long is your warm-up session to get ready to, I mean, because the length that you're playing is, depending if you're support or headlining, I mean, can vary for anywhere from 30 to over an hour. And playing that fast for that long, it's got to be a wear and tear on your body.
Yeah, for sure, sure. I don't think we'd ever really play over an hour. Like, I think an hour is kind of enough, just in general for a death metal show. It's like that's a fun long time.
Yeah.
And that's something we've been mindful of. You know, we try to pack as many songs in as possible and make sure people enjoy the show as best they can. But sometimes less is more. You know, so we don't want to be playing more than an hour, because after then, all of us, you know, physically are kind of going to wane a little bit.
Right.
But yeah, you're right. You know, it's very physically demanding, so I have to stay on top of my match fitness, so to speak. So I'm always, you know, I'm trying to practice every day and play every day to stay on top of things. In terms of warm up before a show, it really depends on the circumstances. You know, sometimes there's just nowhere to warm up, so you try to do anything. You know,
Right.
push-ups, run on the spot, whatever. In an ideal situation, it'll be half an hour just with a practice pad and just slowly warming up. I think the general yardstick I use is, if I've broken a light sweat, I think I'm warmed up to
Yeah.
ready to go. So that's kind of the unofficial rule. So yeah, you know, 30, 40 minutes, whatever's possible. Usually the band before us, unfortunately, I don't get to watch because I'm warming up, and that's usually the time. It's like, cool, this band started, I've got to start my warm up now.
Yeah. At least you got a time, I guess, a frame of time to kind of know when you're going to be ready. So
Yeah.
you've released so far two music videos, and you kind of mentioned it earlier about, you know, watching YouTube and other musicians. Is there going to be any playthroughs for the drums, or any, you know, the guitar parts, or any playthroughs on some of the newer songs?
There'll be definitely a couple of guitar playthroughs that have been done. As far as drums, yeah, there is plans to do that, but it's just fitting everything in. You know, it's yeah, I'm not. I'll say hopefully, but there's only so many hours in a day, and you know,
Right.
sometimes other things take priority. And to be honest, sometimes my own practice takes priority, which it does, you know. But definitely guitar playthroughs. I know we've actually done a couple, so hopefully should be out soonish.
Yeah, very cool. Another good thing that's going to be coming out, you're going to be heading on, coming to the U.S. on a tour and starting in September. Y'all are going to be here for a month.
Yep.
The lineup is pretty sick. I mean, it seems like all those bands fit in that
Yeah,
lineup.
yeah. Like every band's unique in their own way, but it fits. I think it's gonna work.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, it's something for everyone in the extreme metal, in the metal realm. And every band's unique. No one sounds like each other. But it works. I think it's going to work pretty well.
oh yeah. Have you toured with any of these bands, with Fallujah or Interloper or Cognitive before?
No, 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 no. We've never done a tour with any of them. Like, we know various members, um, just from running into them and things like
Yeah,
that. So this will be the first time we've all gone out together in a tour package. So
yeah.
it'll be fun.
Oh yeah, for sure. You know, coming back to the States, is there any specific, you know, cities that you've played that you're like really looking forward to coming back to, because you know the fans are always crazy at a certain city, or do you enjoy all of it and being able to sightsee everything?
Yeah, yeah. I guess the cop out is, you know, we enjoy all of it.
Yeah,
But there's certain markets that are always killer. You know, Denver's always been cool. Texas is always killer. New York, LA, that sort of thing. You know, I guess the kind of predictable places are pretty cool. But sometimes, you know, you get surprised by a Tuesday night in some regional fucking out of the way place that turns out to be the best show on the tour. So you can never really predict it. And it's always, you know, I guess the older we all get, the more we appreciate the fact that, firstly, the ability to tour, because that was taken away for a while,
Right.
and then, you know, secondly, we appreciate everyone's fucking busy. So if they take their time and come out to a show, it's like, wow, we appreciate that, like genuinely appreciate that they've just not turned on Netflix and, you know, next time they come through.
Oh
So
yeah.
if people make the effort, we reciprocate by making the effort to put on the best show possible.
Right, right. And I think something is certainly changed over, once, concerts are starting to come back. I see that people are trying to get out to as many as possible. The fans are crazier. I mean, they were already crazy to start with, at some shows, and they just up the levels, how insane it is now. Have you noticed that yourself? I think you have played a few
We
shows
played
every now
played a
and there
couple of
again.
shows. Yeah, played a couple of shows, and yeah, it's definitely, people missed it. So it was,
Oh yeah.
and we missed it too. So it's been very cool. The first couple of shows, it was a little bit strange because, as weird as it seems, we'd forgotten how to put on a show, because we hadn't done it for so long, and something
Yeah.
that was second nature, we'd forgotten how to do it. But now we're getting back into the swing of it, and it's just good to be doing what we've probably taken for granted in the past. It's like, yeah, I appreciate it much more, and that's something I've actually thought about before playing the shows, even if I'm a bit lethargic, or sometimes you're like, ah, fuck, can't wait to get this over with, whatever.
Yeah.
Just stop and think about, hey, you did get this. This wasn't a thing for a couple of years, so snap out of it. Get into the
Right.
zone, and it's worked. It's been like, yeah, um,
Yeah.
it's made us appreciate it a lot more,
Yeah,
for
for
sure.
sure. I mean, luckily for the fans, I mean, you're going, I think, 23 years, going on to 24-ish, right? If as you
Yeah.
look back, and I know sometimes it's hard for people to answer this question, but as you look back, did you find it difficult to kind of break out of Australia to get into other markets when you were first starting?
Um, uh, it's a hard one to answer because, um, when you're in it, you don't really think about that. In some regards, we're like, well, we haven't really broken out, and in other regards, we're like, it was easy to break out. It depends on how you look at
Yeah.
it. Um, Logistically, it's always been a challenge, and there's always curveballs that come up. It's just a matter of being patient and dealing with the problems as they arise and working through them. So I'm not going to say it's been particularly easy to get out there and tour, but then on the flip side, we've got it way easier than a lot of other bands and a lot of other people. So it's
Right.
just whatever circumstances, whatever the cards that you're dealt, you just got to play them, and that's
Yeah.
that's the cards we were dealt. So we're just going to keep playing the hand as long as possible.
Yeah.
So again, it sounds like a roundabout answer, but it like anything in life, when an obstacle arises, you just figure out how to go over it, get around it, or go through it, whatever is needed. So
Right.
um, we take things, tours case by case. We take album recordings case by case. So it doesn't seem like it's been 23 years of struggle or anything like that. Far from it. Doesn't even feel like 23 years. It still feels fresh, and it still feels like things are new and exciting. So which is good, because it's probably because it's not our main source of income for everyone in the band. Like, it's not our job, so it doesn't have a grind of a
Yeah.
job. It's something that's, a part-time job for us that we all love doing, and we make time for it. So
Yeah.
we appreciate it more, I think. Yeah.
And that's just an interesting perspective. Even though it's kind of a roundabout answer, I completely get it because you adapt to whatever situation that you have, overcome, and it's like if we want to do this, we're gonna do this. As
Yeah,
opposed
exactly.
to, yeah, some people can have a mindset and then they're thinking like, oh my God, we have one little problem, it's the end of the world. What the hell are we gonna
Yeah.
do? We're just gonna give up.
Yeah. I
So
mean,
it's different mindsets, yeah.
exactly. Everyone's, don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but everyone's got that Facebook friend that's always putting the status updates about how they're always getting fucked over, and it's like, why me? And it's like,
Oh yes.
maybe it is you. Maybe it is you.
Right. I know. I know one guy exactly like that. Poor me and this and that. It's like, well, maybe it's you, man. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
how about work on yourself and then see what happens. Change it a little
yeah,
bit.
yeah, exactly. It's you can look at the same scenario. Everyone can look at the exact same situation in vastly different ways.
Yeah.
So there's always a positive and a negative situation. There always is. You just got to sometimes you got to find it. Might take you years to find, but maybe there will be. So yeah, we're definitely not going to bitch and moan about living on the other side of the earth and, oh, woe is us, it's hard for us to tour. It's like, well, on the flip side, we live on the other side of the earth. It's pretty fucking cool here. every time we
Yeah.
every time we travel, it's an adventure.
Yeah.
And we're fortunate enough, some people don't even get to leave their own city or state.
Yeah.
We've managed to get to 40 or something countries,
Yeah.
which is completely absurd. So
Yeah. I think
definitely,
you struck
yeah,
a
sorry.
nice balance with your mentioning that, this isn't like a full-time job per se, being in the band. I remember talking to the vocalist of My Dying Bride, and he was like, and we only play like 8 shows a year because, that grind, that how it wears on you, having
Mm,
to like constantly push, 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 push. And then for them, I mean, they don't have to do that. And it sounds like for yourself too, having your real life full-time jobs allows you to come in fresh every time, enjoy it, appreciate it, like you're saying, once you do go out and it's not like, just driving you into the dirt.
I think, uh, it's not our, as I said, yeah, it's not our main source of income. In terms of the hours we put in, maybe it's even more than a full-time job that we're putting into it, but
Right.
we're not trying to extract a living out of it. We're doing this, we're working so we can do this.
Oh yeah.
Um, so it's, for us, it's the art and the music is always paramount, and it's still fun. I think we've always said, as soon as it becomes a chore or as soon as it becomes work, maybe it's time to stop. Um,
Right.
Not saying, at the end of a tour you don't want to go home, because that's kind of a grind. But you kind of sign up for that. You know that this is part of it. I think, yeah, not having the financial reliance on it is kind of freeing, because it allows us really to do whatever we want.
Yeah.
If we were to rely on this as our sole source of income, we would 100% have to make a lot of compromises just to make that happen.
Right.
For a start, maybe we would have to move somewhere logistically closer to the rest of the markets. That would make sense.
Right.
Um, but we don't want to do that. Um, yeah, so it's everyone makes choices. So as a band, we've definitely made a lot of choices to get the right balance for everyone's particular lifestyles. So
Yeah.
it's still, we're still putting a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of dedication into it, but of our own, kind of free will rather than, okay, we have to clock on because this is our job.
Yeah.
So striking that right balance, you know.
Oh yeah, for sure. So on this tour that mentioned that's coming up in September, I know some bands do meet and greets. Are we all going to be happening to do any of those on this coming run? I know fans always want
Um,
to meet the band and take pictures with them, get stuff signed.
we're always happy to do that. We don't do like official meet and greets, where we charge people money and
Yeah,
all that sort of stuff. It's just come and hang out. Like we'll be there. We'll be at the
yeah,
merch desk.
very
You'll
cool.
find us if you want to find us and have a chat. Of course,
Yeah,
um, we'll be floating around. So for sure. So yes, every night will be an unofficial meet and greet. You just got to come and find us.
very cool. Well, good. And those people that are shy, get out of that comfort zone. Come say hi.
Exactly, exactly. We're more shy than you guys are. So come and say hello.
Yeah. So, kind of coming to a conclusion, you have the new album coming out August 5th, new tour coming out, and coming up to the States. Anything else that you would like to promote before we finish up? I always like to tell fans if they can make it to the show, make it to the show, buy merch at the table because that's how you make it to the next show. If you can buy stuff from the band, get it directly from the band because that's how we support you and get you to the next spot that you need to get to.
That's 100% correct. Like I couldn't have said it better. If you can afford to buy a shirt and afford the ticket to the show, that's amazing, and we appreciate it more than you can imagine because it literally does help keep everything rolling.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I know. I know. I hear horror stories from some bands that, unfortunately, like they're just like starting out, and they're having to pay like the main artist to get on that tour, and then they got to try to recoup that money, and then, I mean, it's just a rough deal. But luckily for y'all don't have to do that. You can make your own headline tour.
Yeah, which we're very fortunate and very grateful that we can. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, as a fan, I thank you for the music that you've put out. I mean, these past 2 decades. This next album, of course, Killer is it, which is, I mean, there's no way for me to think otherwise that you're gonna put out anything that's not going to be amazing.
That means a lot. Thank you so much.
Sure. Again, thank you for your time, Dave. I appreciate it. I wish you the best on the tour. And I know there's a few Texas dates. The closest ones to me in Austin. As long as works out
Yeah.
and I'm off, I'm gonna try to make that show, man.
Awesome, awesome. We'll make sure you come and say hi.
Oh yeah, for sure. Thank you for your time again. You have a good night.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I'll see you later.
Thanks. Take care.
Bye.